The Israeli state of terror has been breaching the ceasefire in Gaza regularly, with over 400 breaches and over 300 Palestinians being martyred. The latest breach was that took place yesterday, when Israel killed over 22 people with multiple strikes inside of the Gaza Strip. They said that, again, Hamas breached the ceasefire. The only thing that they showed was an individual with a hoodie driving a black car and then walking and randomly shooting and then getting shot by Israel. Unlike any trained resistance fighter, no strategy, being completely exposed with a car, no movement of a fighter who is trained on combat, like we have seen so many times with the Palestinian resistance. But they, of course, used that as an excuse. And it didn't end there. They also started to report that Hamas is actually threatening to break the ceasefire. Them and a Saudi news network, Al Arabiya, said that Hamas told Witkoff the ceasefire is going to end. We're going to end it. And the Times of Israel reported, supposedly based on an Arab diplomat, again, that Hamas threatened to end the ceasefire in Gaza. Typical deflection coming from the Zionists who are frustrated. What really happened was the following. Hamas urged the mediators to intervene with the continued Israeli strikes and violations of the ceasefire. Now, this doesn't mean that Hamas is gonna totally accept everything and never respond. However, they're trying to the best of their ability with the mediators for them to apply genuine pressure, especially on the American administration that has been siding with Israel ever since the beginning of the genocide and way before as well, so that things don't really go all out and explode again. Now, from an Israeli perspective, they're constantly blaming the Palestinian side, despite the fact, again, that the Palestinians outright denied that they told the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff that they want to end the ceasefire. Izzat al-Rashq, an official in the political bureau of Hamas, said that there are no such claims, they're baseless. Nothing as such happened, and again, the only thing that happened was them telling the mediators that they need to intervene. Again, not excluding the possibility of the war going all out again, or at least the Palestinian side starting to respond to Israel, because the genocide has been ongoing, really, because Israel kills people on a day-to-day basis. They kill infants, children, every single day, almost after the ceasefire took place. And from the perspective of the Palestinian resistance, they prefer to continue down the path of the ceasefire. Now, why is Israel doing this? Why is Israel escalating? And why is Israel having these tensions, not only with Gaza, but also with Lebanon, in Syria as well? And also they are threatening with Iran. That's for various factors. There were several articles speaking about the possibility of an all-out war going out now between Israel and Gaza and Lebanon and Iran too. Israel is prepared for renewed wars and is not sure the US understands. See, this is something that the Zionists like to say a lot. We're not sure that the Americans understand. We're not sure that the West understands, you know. The British are naive and the Americans don't really get it, you know. We're the chosen ones here. Everyone should worship us. And look at them. They don't want to worship us or obey everything that we have to say. They don't love us, although we kill their children and infants every single day. But you don't get it, you know. As a matter of fact, the world doesn't get it. We have a case of collective psychopathy, collective mental health problems. These people act as if they are on a different planet. But again, that stems from their sense of supremacy and their belief that they are above people and that they can subjugate other people and force them to obey their demands, regardless of how despicable and monstrous and barbaric they are, as they have been, evidently, in the past 2 years and way before that. Now, what they're saying in relation to, especially Gaza, because the front in Lebanon and a war with Iran would be different than Gaza, is the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu now sees a window of opportunity inside of the Gaza Strip before any sort of forces arrive. You know, there's been talks about, and we've been covering them, the International Stabilization Force. The International Stabilization Force that's supposed to be formed out of countries or armed forces from countries to participate in Gaza in a transitional period. Reports said that up to 2027, so about a year or so. And again, and we spoke about that many times, the Israeli version of the ISF is an ISF that is there to take over from the IDF, the Israeli Diaper Forces, if you don't know what the IDF stands for, and kill Palestinian people, disarm the Palestinian resistance from the countries that are potentially going to participate. From their perspective, they view this as a very problematic thing because they don't know exactly what they're going to be doing. As a matter of fact, they asked for multiple clarifications from the mediators and from the United States of America too, that runs a central command in south of occupied Palestine now and reportedly wants to build a base outside of the Gaza Strip within Israeli territories, but to monitor and have a command center for the ISF that's supposed to take place in Gaza. The Arab states didn't really want to participate with ambiguous and vague objectives. As a matter of fact, Israel, backed by the United States, wanted to establish this force without any clear guidelines and objectives, only for them to be subject to demands coming from the United States and Israel on what to do and what not to do inside of Gaza. That's why there is no ISF yet. There was an attempt from Israel and the United States to bring European countries instead of Arab and Muslim countries. That made things worse, and none of them wanted to participate anyway. The Israelis wanted Europeans to die for them. And the European countries told them, look, we love you and you are the chosen people and we'll help you, but we don't want to die for you because, you know, I mean, your people don't want to die for you. And Benjamin Netanyahu still has a plan, though, to drag American forces, whether to Gaza or to Lebanon or to Iran. I mean, his ideal dream is to drag the United States to Iran, and there's a potential that that may happen at one point, regardless of how Americans view such a war and regardless of the increasing dissatisfaction of the American people from their government and how miserable they are, how pathetic they are, how much of a small poodle they are for the Israeli demands in the United States. If Israel controls the decision-making process in the United States, that relates to internal and external and foreign policies too. So that's relevant. Why? Because Netanyahu, if he goes ahead to phase 2, and there are international stabilization forces in Gaza, that means it's going to be more difficult for him to conduct any actions that may risk targeting the international stabilization forces. So he would create tensions with other countries that would participate. If one of their forces are killed in Gaza, they might view that as a reason for war, as an attack on their sovereignty, as an attack on their state. And Israel doesn't want to go down that route. So Netanyahu, before any of that happens, and again, it may happen, it may not, it may be delayed, we don't know. But Israel always likes to create certain conditions on the ground before any outcomes, before anything else develops, so that they can create a new reality. For example, targeted assassinations, killing people, targeting innocent civilians, invading or threatening to invade the airline continuing to destroy homes within the external parts that they technically occupy now in Gaza. Netanyahu sees that as a window of opportunity now, and that's why he wants to escalate further, alongside, of course, his internal political problems in relation to his court case, the fact that he hasn't been granted this amnesty or pardon that Donald Trump asked the Israeli president to give Netanyahu, and also the fact that he's politically doing really bad. Polls are showing that Netanyahu wouldn't form a new coalition, especially seeing as one of his main allies, Bezalel Smotrich, would not pass the threshold to go into the Israeli Knesset. Then we go to, of course, Lebanon. Israel has been, again, breaching the ceasefire regularly in Lebanon. They tried to provoke Hezbollah multiple times. They attack, in many cases, civilian buildings and locations and civilian individuals, then say that they are members of Hezbollah or members of Hamas or whatever, to kind of show that they are targeting someone or something, when really and truly they just want to kill people randomly because, well, they enjoy impunity. And the Arab and Muslim countries in general are shameful. They don't lift a finger against Israel, and Israel tells them, well, okay, we'll continue to kill you so long as we're not challenged by you. And we have several examples in the region, of course, of this embarrassing situation with many of the Arab and Muslim countries, which leads us to Iran, because they're talking about Iran too. And from an Israeli perspective, from an Israeli security, military, and intel perspective, another war with Iran is inevitable. Now, there were talks about the timing. Some people said, well, there's a window of opportunity up until December because, Iran has been hurt, according to them, and Israel has a chance now to finish what it started. Other arguments, or at least, some Israeli claims, but again, these are Israeli claims at the end of the day, say that no, actually, a war with Iran is going to be further down the line. Although it's going to happen, but it's going to be further down the line, which again could be psychological warfare, part of the psychological warfare, because Israel doesn't want to lose the element of surprise should they decide to carry out a strike against Iran. One very important bit about a potential war between Israel and Iran, which is very, very likely, is who's going to fire the first shot. So far, Iran refrained from conducting preemptive strikes against Israel. Israel was the country that provoked Iran, targeted its leadership outside of Iran, and targeted foreign leadership inside of Iran, and then directly attacked Iran and Iranian facilities and Iranian leaders. They, from their perspective, from the Israeli perspective, still want to have the upper hand in relation to when the war starts. So they're on a rampage now. They're on a huge campaign of getting more arms and getting prepared for the next battle with Iran. The United States is funding Israel and arming Israel heavily, likewise with other European countries too, primarily Germany. And they know that this war is going to come. But they're not sure when to conduct that war. And that leads us back to Netanyahu. Netanyahu, when did he have this war with Iran? Well, he had multiple escalations when his political situation was very tough internally in Israel. And judging by his current situation, which is very tough, he's not doing very well politically in Israel. He's not doing very well with his court case and the amnesty. That may lead him to go on another war and take advantage of the fact that, well, he got away with it before and he might get away with it again, and also completely control the narrative of the pro-Zionists in the Trump administration, who always wanted a war with Iran for the sake of Israel, not for the sake of America or anything as such. So they can start applying more pressure. You can start seeing more campaigns. As a matter of fact, we have seen campaigns that were led by Donald Trump himself against Iran. Whenever he said something rational, for example, like we're going to have a deal with Iran regardless, and even if we don't have a deal, it's not the end of the world. Whenever he had any sort of rational statement, he would immediately go against it by, well, firstly blaming Iran for his assassination attempt, another pathetic move, and then entertaining the Zionist garbage that relates to Iran and how much of a threat Iran is. And of course, there have been so many videos of Netanyahu for the past 3 decades saying Iran is 1 or 2 or 3 weeks away from a nuclear bomb. And that makes Benjamin Netanyahu in a position to actually wage an attack against Iran, whether he would want it to be an all-out attack this time or just another limited attack against certain facilities so that he can at least have a way out, because before it was very difficult for him. He had to beg Trump to participate. Trump did participate eventually, and then he got him out of the equation, and then they unilaterally, well, the United States and Israel together, declared a ceasefire without Iran declaring it, but only declaring that they will not attack or respond if Israel and the United States stop the attack against them. Therefore, that situation and that front is extremely tense, and Benjamin Netanyahu may want to use this period to try and gain more popularity, have another attack against Iran in an attempt to boost his popularity internally inside of Israel.